Welcome to Fitness Explained, the podcast. I'm your host, Mel Waller. I'm a third-year sport and exercise science student, and I have a passion for science and helping others create a balanced and healthy lifestyle through understanding the science behind health and fitness. Hello everyone, hope we're all having a great week so far. It's been a bit of a bummer with stage 4 lockdown at the moment, or not stage 4, lockdown 2.0 going into stage 4. It's been a bit of a bummer for me with like placement and uni and everything, but we'll get through it, I guess. And yeah, so today we're going to be talking about flexibility and all things stretching, flexibility, that sort of thing, types, how to incorporate it into your everyday life, stuff like that. But first, I want to talk about an item, exercise, product, task, or food I've been enjoying recently / in the past week, and it's been yoga. You've probably seen on my stories me being an idiot and trying to do headstands in all weird ways, but I really enjoy it. I do really love yoga. I didn't really used to like it so much when I was a kid because I thought, oh, I'm super energetic and I hate staying still and that sort of stuff. But the thing is, yoga really is for everyone. I know I sound a bit woo-woo at the moment, but not gonna lie, I kind of am a bit woo-woo. I think everyone could benefit from doing yoga one way or another. It's something that I like to do as just a way to move my body without it being too high impact. Sometimes if I just want to get that feeling of moving, but I don't really feel like doing a really strenuous workout, I will do yoga, and maybe some days I'll do like basically a stretching version, or some days I'll do a more intense version, and I'll get that sort of feeling of doing a workout from that. But yeah, as I said, I think yoga is something everyone can do, especially because at the moment with stage 4, you can only go out for an hour a day. I think it's a way that you can sort of get that feeling of going for a walk and sort of meditating, but also moving your body. That's why I really like going for walks, is I just get that sort of meditative experience, but I also get to move. I think it's a great way to stay indoors and get that sort of experience that you would otherwise get from a walk. Obviously not the same thing, but if you have a balcony, you could do it on the balcony, and that's just another way you can move your body. But now let's move on to the main topic of today. Alrighty, so flexibility and stretching. So what is flexibility? Flexibility is the ability to move a joint smoothly through its complete range of motion. So if we think about something like, I don't know, your wrist, you can move it up, you can move it down, you can move it side to side a little bit, and that is its complete range of motion. For some people, obviously, will have a better range of motion than others. One factor, we'll talk about other factors later, but one factor is age. So older Mil Waller is going to be worse at flexibility than Mil Waller now. I don't know, maybe I'll take up acrobatics as an 80-year-old, but theoretically speaking, I'll probably be worse in terms of flexibility when I am older. So also I want to talk about is that flexibility is a component of health-related fitness components. So this is alongside muscular endurance, cardiovascular fitness, strength, and body composition. So body composition, a quick way to describe what that is like how much of your body is fat-free mass versus fat mass, as a really simple term for that. And these are all associated with improving or maintaining health. There are also skill-related fitness components, which are more related to physical performance. So an example of a skill-related fitness component is muscular power. So out of all of these, the skill-related and the health-related components, flexibility is the easiest to adapt or improve upon. And so it's super rewarding when you have a flexibility-based training program alongside other training programs like aerobic fitness or power, because power and aerobic fitness typically take a really long time to improve. As you've probably heard in the other episodes, I have been doing a 12-week running program, and so 12 weeks is a relatively long time to see results. Having said that, like, it's going to be super rewarding at the end when I can run 10Ks, but to get that sort of sugary instant gratification, what is also really good to do alongside these longer term fitness programs like 12 or 18 weeks, sometimes even a year, to train for a marathon, it will typically take about a year if you do it really correctly and slowly. Having said that, some people train for a marathon in 12 weeks. I wouldn't do that personally because that sounds like hell and just not a good time, but it's doable, I guess. But yeah, moving back onto the topic. So I currently am trying to improve on my stretching with yoga, especially because just sitting down and doing a stretch just isn't that fun for me. But when I'm doing yoga, it's a little bit more entertaining. And so, because when you go in for a stretching session, so whether it be 5-10 minutes, as little as that, you're going to come out of it more flexible than when you started. And so that's why I think it's so good to do stretching alongside all your other programs, because you get that quick fix of reward before any other results you'll get in other programs, so that you don't lose motivation and that you still are seeing results even if your program is, say, a year long, for example. Having said that, super long programs do have their benefits, because the longer your program is, the more likely you are to stick to that program and stick to the lifestyle that you've developed in that program, which I love to see. I think that the longer your program is, the better, because it means, as I said before, you're going to stick to it. And we love long-term fitness and long-term training goals, and we do not love short-term training goals. But I think flexibility is something that can be super beneficial to keep alongside, just to keep that motivation up. And also there are a bunch of other benefits to stretching and maintaining or improving your flexibility, which I'll go into later. So the types of stretching and flexibility. So there is static, dynamic, PNF, and ballistic. And let's talk about all those four now. So what is static? So this is what most people think of when they think of stretching. So just holding out a body part or limb and just holding it down for, 6 seconds all the way to 60, whatever you want to do it. And an example of this is, just standing up tall, keeping the legs straight, and then bending down and reaching down to the floor. And so it's the most basic version of stretching. And then we go into dynamic. So that's stretching while moving. Oh, can you hear that helicopter? I'll just take a drink while that helicopter moves past. Okie dokie, still going. Fantastic. Yep, alrighty. I'm just gonna keep going. So dynamic, so that's stretching while moving. So for an example, you might see people doing some leg swings before their run. Leg swings is a type of dynamic stretching. And a lot of people, what they will do is do dynamic stretching before their physical activity or their session, and then they will do static after. And what a lot of people should do though before doing their dynamic stretching is a little bit of a warm-up. So whether that be a 5-minute run or 5-minute ergo, 100 star jumps, just something between 3 and 10 minutes, just to get the blood pumping, the body moving, everything warmed up before stretching, because that's going to decrease your likelihood of injuring yourself while stretching. So there is a bit of a debate though surrounding dynamic versus static before exercise. So a lot of research indicates that stretching prior to training can hinder performance, and so that way most people favor dynamic prior to exercise, and then they do static after, as I said. However, some research also says no, there's no evidence saying this. Doing static before training is fine. So there's a bit of a debate, but the vast majority of reports are saying that it's better to do dynamic before exercising and then static afterwards. Having said this, I'll say this in a lot of episodes, is science can say one thing, but your personal preference should always be a factor of your training. I personally will do both, mostly dynamic stretching, but I will also incorporate other types of stretching and also static. For example, my sacroiliac joint, so SIJ, gets really tight a lot of the time, and it can cause me some hip pain on my left side. And so what I do to combat this is I will go on the tennis ball or the foam roller, but then I also will do a stretch called pigeon pose. You've probably seen it in yoga. If not, give it a quick Google. It's a really great stretch, which is good for me because I've got, although I've got a really tight SIJ joint, I also have hypermobile hips. So yeah, that doesn't make for a great combination. So that's why I make such an important emphasis on strengthening my glutes, and everyone's glutes, but especially for me, because I have such mobile hips, my legs will go flying everywhere. So I have to stretch the hips because of my SIJ joint, which gets really tight, but then I also have to activate my glutes to make sure that my legs aren't flying everywhere and they're doing what I'm telling them to do. So yeah, I've got to, that's another thing about training programs, cater them to you. If you want to do some static stretching before exercising, that's fine. Having said that, there are definitely, it's definitely not something you should do before going for a PB, because there are evidence saying that going for sprinting PBs, it's not great to do, or lifting PBs, it's not great to do static stretching. But I'm talking about my everyday workouts. But I probably would just go on the foam roller or the peanut or the tennis ball before doing a PB. Not that I often go for one. I just come across my PBs in the gym. I don't typically set out the goal for the day to reach one. But yeah, that's just something for you to take on board before exercising, and maybe consider doing a bit more dynamic in your warm-up and a bit more static afterwards. So the next type of stretching is PNF, which often requires a partner, but you could do it without a partner, but there are certain stretches that you actually need a partner for. So what is PNF stretching? So it's alternating between contracting and stretching the muscle and relaxing. So an off and an on phase. And what makes this type of stretching a little bit special is that during the contracting phase of stretching the muscle, the Golgi tendon organs are stimulated. Sorry if you say Golgi tendon organ, but I say Golgi. Sorry if I'm offending anyone. So yeah, you push against someone while stretching and you contract the muscle, and that's the on phase. So what is a Golgi tendon organ? So they are sensory receptors that are between the muscle and its respective tendon, and it monitors tension. So if you can imagine, we're tensing the muscle, so that's why you can see that these Golgi tendon organs are associated with this type of stretching, because they monitor tension while we're tensing the muscle. A plus B, These structures also help with preventing us from excessively loading our muscles and joints by giving feedback to our nervous system about the amount of force being applied to a muscle. They also help with a thing called proprioception, and proprioception, which is the awareness of your body throughout space. And to further understand this concept is when you've had a bit too much drink or you're drunk, you lose you don't lose all of it, but you lose a significant portion of your proprioception, because your limbs kind of fly everywhere and you don't know where they're going. You knock over things accidentally. So that's an idea of what your proprioception is. So there are some amazing benefits to doing PNF stretching. So as I implied, it helps with the neuromuscular communication, and studies have also shown that this type of stretching is a little bit more effective than static at improving flexibility. So another PNF is also something that you can definitely do before exercise. And it's similar to dynamic. It's just that you need a partner, and there's that more contracting and tensing of the muscle than your stock standard dynamic. So if you do have a partner, highly recommend you looking up some PNF stretches that you do before exercising, and you might see a little bit more results and less likely of injuring yourself in the gym. So our next type of stretching is called ballistic. So similar to dynamic, like PNF is, except it's really quick, bouncing stretches that make the muscle lengthen. And then this type of rapid movement causes the muscle to move beyond their range of motion. So a con of this type of stretching that it can cause injury if not done correctly, because of the quick lengthening causing a reflex and then quickly shortening, which can increase the risk of muscle tears, and also because the muscle stretching beyond its range of motion. So who should do ballistic stretching? I know I make it sound like a terrible type of stretching, but it is really great. So it's people who have built up a solid base level of fitness and flexibility, and are relatively active individuals, people who are regularly active as well. So you should do this during your later part of the warm-up or after your warm-up. I recommend this most because you don't want to just go in with colder muscles where the blood isn't pumping as much, and you just shock your muscles by jumping really fast and rapidly stretching, and then you cause a tear because the muscles aren't ready to take that kind of load. So I do ballistic stretching prior to exercise because I have done it for years, so I'm pretty well trained in it. If you are someone who's not typically active, highly recommend that you see a trainer before trying to implement this type of stretching into your workouts. But if you are someone that has never trained before, or is trains not very often, but you want to increase your flexibility, just do a little bit of dynamic, 5 minutes, get on the foam roller before working out, and then do maybe 10, 15, even 20 minutes of static stretching afterwards, and then build up your tolerance and your flexibility so that then you can incorporate more dynamic stretches like PNF and ballistic prior to training. So another thing now I want to talk about is factors impacting your flexibility. So as I talked about before, age does impact your flexibility, and then also gender. Girls have the upper hand on this for multiple reasons. It's a hormonal thing mostly. So yeah, I mean, I also am just a bit of a freak and just have hypermobile hips. As I said, it's more of a hindrance than benefit. I used to be able to do the splits without even training. I mean, that was a benefit, I guess, but doing a party trick versus having to activate my glutes every day, it's a bit annoying, and it's definitely caused injuries in the past. So yeah, I mean, having hypermobile anything isn't great. So, but moving on. So your physical activity level also impacts your flexibility. And how active you were as a child. So people who did gymnastics, diving, any sport really, and were quite active children will, even if they aren't really doing as much sport now, will be more flexible than people who weren't active as a child. And that goes for a lot of other components of fitness, a bit like strength. So, if you were a child and you did gymnastics, for example, you're probably going to be a little bit better with your deep core muscles and switching them on. And so often you'll find kids who have done gymnastics, maybe up until their early teens or late teens, will have typically less back pain because they can switch on their stomach muscles a little bit better than the average person. And other things, I keep going on these tangents, but other factors impacting flexibility is if you've done a warm-up. So as I said before, you go into your stretching session, you're feeling a bit tight, a bit tense, so you're not going to be that great, but after 5 minutes or so, your flexibility is going to be a lot better. But having said that, if you've moved your body a little bit, you're going to be more flexible and less stiff. If you exercise regularly as well, if you're moving your body around lots, you're going to have a better range of motion, and range of motion is flexibility. And then that's another reason to stretch after exercise, because if you do that static stretching after exercise, your body is fully prepared to reach its maximal efforts and range of motion. So if you stretch most then it's going to be better for your flexibility overall, because you're stretching when your body is best ready for it. Other things include stress. So my muscles in my neck particularly, so like my traps, tense up heaps when I'm stressed or I'm studying. And so my shoulder flexibility sometimes is impacted by that. And that can also include for other muscles like your legs or something like that. It's person to person variable. Some people mightn't really have stress impact on their flexibility that much. Others might have it impact a lot. So your joint structure, if you have a super great state-of-the-art joint structure, you're probably going to be able to stretch your legs out or arms out or whatever better. So for example, me, I can I can extend my knees as much as I want, and they will not be fully flat on the floor. My knees are just like permanently slightly bent, which was annoying for me as a diver. Now it's great because it means I can't lock my knees, and it kind of avoids me getting injuries. But there's other parts of me that aren't that great, like my hypermobile hips. So, and then there's also things like how bulky you are. So this is why it's super important for lifters and people bodybuilders. Okay, hot take, I don't think bodybuilding's a sport. Okay, I said it, I left it there, moving on. So people who are really muscular, quite bulky, they're going to have a little bit harder time to stretch because, if you're bulkier, I think you understand what I mean. And that's why it's actually super important for these type of athletes to stretch, because things like weightlifting, for example, if you think about how a snatch looks, you need quite a lot of range of motion. And so if you're super bulky, you're probably not going to stretch as much because it's harder. Having said that, lifters are notorious for not stretching. I'm calling you out, stretch more please. But yeah, so because you need that massive range of motion for things like lifting, it's really important for you to train flexibility often and every time you train, because of those larger muscles impacting your range of motion. So now I want to move on to the average person. So why should the average person aim to improve or maintain their flexibility? So just before I talk about any of this, the benefits that I'm about to say will only be achieved when they are done continuously and regularly. I'm not talking about doing, stretching once a week, maybe, if you feel like it. I'm talking about doing stretching, 5-10 minutes every day, every other day, and when you exercise as well. So what is improved or maintained with flexibility? So your injury, you're less likely to get injured the more flexible you are. And also pain prevention, a lot of unnecessary visits made to your allied health professional like physios, sports scientists, people like osteos, people like that, can be prevented through adequate stretching before and after exercise, along with other things like activating your glute muscles, etc. In addition to, your daily stretches. What am I trying to say? Daily stretches plus stretching before and after exercise. And then studies have also shown that continuous lumbar flexibility exercises were shown to significantly improve your lower back pain symptoms and your lumbar angles. So some people have particularly bad lumbar angles. So your lumbar spine is your lower back, and some people will have a really, really arched back, and which isn't great because we want a relatively flat to neutral spine looking lumbar. And so the more your lumbar is angled at the more likely you are to see some pain. Oh, there's a siren. Don't mind that. So flexibility and a good level of flexibility also improves your neuromuscular efficiency. So how good you are at recruiting your muscle fibers to fire when you want them to. Your increased range of motion, as we talked about before, so help with joint stiffness associated with aging process. That's why it's super important to actually stretch when you're younger, because you don't want to be that older person who is having difficulty moving, pain because they just didn't stretch when they were younger. Also, it helps with improved blood and lymphatic flow, help with posture, help with muscle and balance, and improve coordination. So as you can see, there are a bunch of different benefits to stretching. So I might look like a bit of a loon doing some weird stretches on Instagram, but what I want to show is that it's okay to look like a weirdo stretching, first of all. And, you know, if you see me looking like a nutcase on a public platform, hopefully it will encourage you to look semi-weird, not even as weird as me, in your home alone. And, you know, health, you know, I'm one to say that it doesn't really matter if you look weird. If it's going to benefit your health and your well-being and your mental state, I think go for it. You know, I look like a weirdo a lot of the time, and my embarrassed threshold is pretty high. I've got a good tolerance for it. And now I want to talk about how to incorporate stretching and flexibility into your everyday life. So what I like to do every morning, I have to go for a walk, or else I can't do the day properly. I won't have a good day. And I mean, mostly that's because I have my dog and she forces me out of bed every morning at, you know, anywhere between 7 and 8 a.m. So yeah, but you should always make your first priority of the day to move your body. It makes you feel better. You know, sorry, swear warning. Stuff all the health benefits that are associated with moving your body first thing in the morning. You feel better. And, you know, if you set yourself up for a good day, you're more than likely going to have a good day. So, even if it's just going for like a little walk, like as I said, or doing an hour and a half, you know, HIIT circuit. I mean, that's impossible. Don't do an hour and a half HIIT circuit. That's not good. Or an hour and a half, you know, strength session or something like that. Yeah. And then just and because you've moved your body, you've done that 5 or 10 minute warm up. Now you're like, oh, well, I've prepared myself for my stretches. Now I can go do that. So that's one way. Another way is to just do some stretching in front of the TV. My physios and coaches always used to recommend doing that. If you're just going to sit down, why not sit down and do it in a different position that, you know, causes health benefits? I mean, if you sit, you know, touching your toes instead of sitting as normal, it's very simple but very effective for your health. So another thing is to incorporate yoga when you can, or every chance you get. Sometimes I just get off my desk and literally do 5 minutes of yoga because I feel like it, or because my body's feeling a bit locked up, and that's one way that I can easily loosen it up. And then also, speaking of desks, try and get up from your desk every hour, because, you know, as we know, sitting down isn't great for you, and the more we move our body, the better. So if you just get up for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, just go touch your toes, go, you know, stretch the back out, etc., stuff like that. And then also include stretching in your warm-up when you're exercising. I think not enough people do it. I'm calling out myself. I don't do it enough. And it's something that can help with a magnitude of things, as I said before. So yeah, that's why I love stretching and flexibility. It's super awesome, and I think you should go try it. And now let's move on to question of the week. I got a question like a day or two ago from a friend asking about calf raises, and what they do is, because they don't have access to a gym anymore, obviously like a lot of people in Victoria, they have been doing calf raises just on their bathroom floor, so on a flat surface rather than on a raised surface like a lot of people do their calf raises with, and that they would at the gym because they have access to that equipment. So for this, I say they ask, like, does it matter? No, I don't really think it matters that much. Like, obviously you're going to get some more health benefits, well, not health benefits, but strength benefits from that little dip from like the box. But one way you can get that is, like, if you have like a set in bathtub, you could do it there. That's one way you could do it, or get a few books, or go on the couch, but however you want to do it. But what I think is most important about calf raises is your technique. So making sure you're not rolling outwards, making sure you're not bouncing at the bottom and you're like doing it too rapidly and you're not getting the proper alignment. What else? So rolling outwards, speed. Making sure you're focusing and doing it slowly. I think that's what's most important, not if you're like going far down enough. Another way you can improve or add a challenge to your calf raises is by having weights in each hand, like some heavy cans of something in each hand, or groceries in each hand, any weight or something you can find around the house. Or what you can do is you can bend the knees slightly, like 30 degrees-ish, and that activates the soleus muscle. So if you think about the gastrocnemius muscle, which is the main muscle used in the calf raises to point our toes, essentially. Well, not point our toes, but like plantar flex our feet, so point the feet down to the floor, is our gastrocnemius. So if you look up on the internet what they look like, because for me trying to describe that is a bit hard, but on the outside is the gastrocnemius, and then inner to that is the soleus muscle. And the soleus muscle does similar things to the gastrocnemius, but it often isn't trained as much as the gastrocnemius. And so you can get extra strength from your calves if you train the soleus a little bit more, and a simple way to do that is just bending your knees 30 degrees doing a calf raise, and that's what I'd recommend to do calf raises in ISO. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Please chuck us a follow on the Instagram, fitness_explain_by_mil on Instagram, and leave a comment on the video below. I'd really appreciate it. Like and subscribe to this channel. The more subscribers we have, the more we can send the message out that explains the science behind fitness for everyone, which I'd love to do. And all references that I have used for this video will be in the description bar below. Please note that this podcast is a platform that is general in nature and not tailored to your specific needs, and don't use it as a diagnostic or prescription tool. If you are struggling with your mental or physical health and well-being, please seek help from a medical professional, such as a registered psychologist, registered and qualified dietitian, registered GP, registered exercise scientist or physiologist. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.